What's going on, guys? Welcome to LowKick MMA UFC Fight Night Covington vs. Woodley recap show. I'm your host, Ryan Galloway, and joining me as always, Jordan Ellis. How you doing today, Jordan?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Feeling good after a great night of fight it was.
Yeah, one of the best for this year for sure. So we'll jump right into it. The card overall was fantastic in my opinion. Lots of finishes, what everyone wants to see. And yeah, definitely some highlight reel stuff on this one. And yeah, overall great night of fights. I don't think any fight really disappointed. And so that's exactly what you want, especially going over to Fight Island next weekend. This really got us ready for that. What do you think?
Yeah, it was great. And when we spoke last time, I was saying, it's a bit of a top heavy card. The main card was really great on paper, but the below card really delivered too. And you had lots of highlight reel finishes, a bit of controversy, some comebacks. It had everything. This card it was one of the best of 2020, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll jump in the main event straight away. Colby Covington taking on Tyron Woodley. A fight that's been years in the making. Bad blood between them. Woodley spoke about how he's ready for this and he's perfect condition, great training camp. Colby didn't really speak a lot, but coming into this with a new camp behind him, Colby Covington Inc., MMA Masters or whatever that camp is. And, Colby looked sensational. He looked fantastic. As good as he's ever looked against a guy as dangerous as Woodley. I know Woodley's seen better fights, obviously, and his last two he really didn't show up. And this one you'd say he didn't show up either. But he looked much better in this one. He came forward straight away. He tried to take the lead, but just as the fight went on, he faded and Covington just took over. I guess Covington was in charge the whole time, but it just got worse for Woodley as the fight went. And yeah, super impressed with how Covington looked.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was a perfect performance from Covington because sometimes he's quite reckless with his forward pressure. He doesn't really worry about what's coming back at him, and then he ends up getting pinged like he did against Usman. So this time, obviously, he knows Woodley's such a power puncher. He had so much respect, and it was clear that he was edging his way in, edging his way in, and then he just ultimately took over and just put a beating on him. And in the end, Woodley wanted out of there, in my opinion, and he got out of there. So it was a huge statement from Covington to actually get that stoppage. Whether it's by a rib injury or whatever it is, that he stopped Woodley when the other two couldn't. That's a statement, and it's just huge. It was a brilliant night for Covington. It wasn't the most fun fight to watch, but it had all the drama, considering the rivalry. But on paper, it weren't a fun fight to watch. But Covington delivered. He did what he was meant to do. Woodley, really tough night for him again.
Yeah, and just as we saw in the last couple of fights, we didn't really see it in the last couple of fights, but when Woodley lands, he gets reactions. He landed on Covington twice in the fight, and both times Covington took a back step and had to reset, because he has power. But it's very frustrating, especially as a fan, but I couldn't even imagine being a coach, when you're watching him and you're telling him to go forward, and he's just not going forward, and he's just letting himself get backed up. And I think as the fight went on, his fatigue put himself into default, and his default is to go back and look for a counter, right? Because you saw at the fight started, he was pressing the action. He was the one going forward, maybe only for the first minute, but it looked like he was ready to make the changes and win this one. And yeah, just as the fight went on and as he got fatigued, obviously Covington was doing great work the whole time, so that didn't help. He just went back into the fence and looking for that big counter, which doesn't work against these wrestlers. And Colby, like I said, looks better than he's ever looked, was very patient. Like you said, he wasn't going in there getting clipped or anything. When he did get tagged was when the times where he got reckless and threw like a combination or two. But yeah, he was very, very patient with his striking, used his striking mostly just to push him to the cage, and then look to clinch. And the best thing I like about Colby's game, and I always have, is when he separates, he always lands something. If it's elbow or a hook off the break, he's always landing something off the break. And he did it tonight. It looked sensational, And for Tyron, I know Dana White said that he needs to retire. I'm of the mindset that he might want to think about retiring, because where do you go from here? He's lost to the three top guys. He's a former champion. We know he's good. We know he can beat a lot of the guys. But do you risk fighting these low-ranked opponents and letting your legacy get tarnished? Or do you leave now, only having lost the top guys? So what do you think about Tyron Woodley continuing and what he should do?
I think he should continue. I think maybe a move up to 185. As you said, it's only the top three guys. And to be fair, them three guys might have beat him even in his prime. So there's one of them. Is he way off, or is he just getting stifled by a certain type of opponent? And maybe step up. He does have a big cut. He's a big guy, so I wouldn't mind seeing him step up. It's just he doesn't seem to. He's never really seems to someone who relishes fighting, but right now he just seems to be hating it. Like I was just waiting for him to quit because he was having a little moan about the eye poke, and then the blood was getting in his eyes, and then at the end of round 4 he took a while getting up, and then I was just waiting for him just to call it a day, and he's old, and he's old in terms of fighter years. He's fought, he's done everything he wants to do. So if he walked away now, I wouldn't I think he's had a brilliant career. He's one of the best welterweights of all time, no doubt about that. I think he might still have a little bit left in him, and it's only the top guys. He's not Cerrone, who's just lost to Nick. Well, didn't officially lose, but he lost to Nico Price. He's a guy who's losing to Covington, Gilbert Burns, Usman. Like they're legit guys. So there's no shame in it. It's just the way he's losing more than anything. He's lost 15 rounds on the bounce now, being dominated. There was a few 10-8s, scattered in them rounds as well. So it's up to him. It really is. If he wants to fight, I'd be happy to see him fight. If he wants to walk away, happy to see him walk away. Whatever's best for him.
And here's the thing, you do bring up a good point that it is that one style of fighter that seems to be getting the better of him recently. I mean, I think you could still put him in there against a Wonder Boy or a Till or a Leon Edwards even. I think that's an easier fight for him because they're guys that are going to come forward and throw hands and he doesn't have to worry about the takedown. That's when he's going to land those big counters, those big power shots. When you got a guy that's not going to level change of you and all you got to really worry about is getting hit. That's what he wants. They're the perfect fights for him. But the UFC, and I'm sure he is part of it, I'm sure he wants these higher-ranked opponents. They seem to just be feeding him to the wolves and giving him wrestler after wrestler. You know what? I think we'll talk about him a bit later, but the worst thing they could do to him right now would be give him Khamzat Chimaev as a stepping stone. Another wrestler. They need to give him a striker. Give him anyone. Leon Edwards, maybe. I feel like Colby should fight Leon Edwards, and we'll get into that in a sec. But any striker, anyone in the top 10 who throws hands, that's a good fight for Tyron if he wants to keep going.
Yeah, I think I do like that move to middleweight. I think that's the move. He's a big guy. He spent a lot of his career cutting to welterweight. I don't think there's anything left for him at welterweight. I don't understand. If he fights Leon Edwards and beats Leon Edwards, what's he going to do? He's not going to fight any of the three top guys. That's done. Like I'm basically done at this point watching Tyron Woodley and main event fights. I've been watching them for years, and 9 times out of 10 they've been really boring. Like he's just that type of fighter. He's got the explosive power. He doesn't like to use it, and he sometimes thinks the gaff out. So I'm kind of done watching him in them fights. But I'll be happy to see him move up to middleweight, and I don't know who's there. Uriah Hall, go straight in with one of the top 10 guys, get a name and a 3-round fight, and we'll all have fun watching it. I don't think there's anything for him at welterweight, and if he sticks around, it would just be to be cashing checks and kind of stay relevant. I think if he wants to continue his career and have some type of future, 2-3 wins at middleweight, he's a contender, and it's that's what I want to see. And I, as you said, I don't want to see him in with wrestlers, and them 3 have been nightmares anyway. So, good luck to him.
Yeah, I mean, they gave Darren Till one of the top 5 guys at middleweight on his move up, so you do think former champion Tyron Woodley jump right up into that mix. But we'll focus on Covington now. I know he called for Masvidal and he called for Usman. I'm a fan of both fights. Realistically, I think the Masvidal fight makes more sense. The UFC really, really wants to do this Usman versus Burn fight, so they can go ahead with that. And I think the beef between Covington and Masvidal and all that background stuff, I think that's going to sell this fight and make it huge. And I would love to see it. I think it's a very enjoyable fight between the two. I think it'd be a bit more enjoyable than the one we just saw because I can't see it being this dominant. I think Covington still wins it, and I think he still dominates it, but I feel like it would just be a bit more enjoyable because Masvidal's a different kind of striker. What would you like to see him do next?
To be fair with Colby now, I'm pretty happy to see him do whatever the UFC want to do with him. If they want to give him an immediate title shot after Burns, I'd be happily watch that. Masvidal's a fun fight. I don't think Masvidal's going to want to take that. I just don't understand in terms of money and just the risk he's taken to take on Covington. Imagine Covington beats the break off him like he's just done to Woodley after all that talk. And Masvidal's going to be talking even more than Woodley. So, no, that's just a huge risk for not a lot of money when you can potentially fight Nate Diaz and make a load and he's not even going to try and take you down. So, And then Leon Edwards is the man who, often gets left out, but he's still there. He's still relevant. He's still worth matching Colby up with. And if there's going to be a long delay between the next title shot after this Usman Burns one, I don't see why you wouldn't make that fight. So there's lots you can do with him. I just hope he stays active and keeps it going, because he's a brilliant fighter. I think besides Usman, he's the second best welterweight on the planet. So it's inevitable that fight's going to happen again. They're both fairly young, so I don't think there's any rush to be, it's got to happen next. I don't mind seeing both of these guys take a couple of fights in between, or maybe just one. Yeah, but either way, we're going to see, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. And the other big thing before we move on for this fight was Colby Covington got a call from the president after. He got a call congratulating him on his win. I know in his post-fight interview, he said some kind words about the president as well. And I think all this, the racial diversity and stuff that the climate of the world at the moment, I think that almost would make the Covington versus Usman rematch like a bigger thing, right? Because different ends of the spectrum politically. I feel like that it would just be a bit more of a bit more culturally significant in terms of UFC fights if they were to do that fight next or sometime soon. But yeah, what did you think of the president calling him?
Yeah, I think he called him last time as well, didn't he? It's interesting because I think it's some type of gimmick. Like I'm still convinced that Colby is not that much of a Trump fan, and he's just kind of running with this thing just to make people hate him. But it's funny he's getting called. It's weird to see an American president so involved in UFC when not only a few years ago they were trying to shut it down. Like it was only just being made legal in New York, where Trump's based, most of his career. So it's a weird one, but I try not to pay attention to all this, political stuff surrounding the fight. I just want to see Woodley fighting Covington fighting Masvidal, Covington fighting Usman. I'm not really interested in all this stuff. I am, a purist in that sense. And if they can sell it with a bit of animosity, that's fun. Once they bring politics into it, I kind of switch off. So a lot of this build-up, I didn't pay too much attention to.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we'll jump on to the other welterweights that fought on this card. Donald Cerrone and Nico Price in the co-main event. And I think it's pretty clear Nico Price won this fight. If he hadn't have landed those eye poke after eye poke, he would have definitely won the fight. The biggest takeaway from this fight to me that just blew my mind when I heard it read was that someone scored at 29-27 for Cowboy. I just can't even fathom how. I don't know what rounds you would give to him, because the third round maybe you could give it to Cowboy, maybe. Like it was fairly close. I can see why people would give it to Cowboy. The second and first rounds are all Price. So I thought it was going to be a draw. I said it to some friends. I said it's going to be a draw. But yeah, when I read the cards and seen that someone gave it to Cowboy, just confused me. What did you think of this fight?
I think it was basically, the fight itself away from the decision. It was just as advertised, basically. It had fight tonight written all over it. In my opinion, it was the fight tonight. I know I was reading a bonus article before from yourself. You didn't get award a fight tonight yesterday, or did this get it? So that's a bit strange, but I think both of these guys deserve 50k. It was a brilliant fight. I like Price as tactic, really, because he's not necessarily known as being a smart fighter, no disrespect. He's just kind of one of them guys, but he knows that Cerrone starts quite slow, so he went out and put it on him in the first round, and he was trying to get the finish, and he went all out for it, and Cerrone did well to stand up to it. He's got no issues there in terms of chin anyway last night, and Cerrone rallied. He come back into it, and it was a good fight. And I just feel I feel a bit sad for Price, considering this would have been the biggest win of his career, and he's had it taken away from him on an eye poke, where as another referee on another day, how many times you see points deducted for eye pokes? I don't think you do that much, so it's just quite unlucky. I'm not saying the referee shouldn't have took the point. I'm just saying I wish the referees were more consistent. If you eye poke twice, we take a point. Sometimes people are doing 3-4 eye pokes and they're not touching it, so it's harsh on Price, but he seemed happy enough after the fight, so I'm sure he's happy. And for Cerrone, does he hang it up? I don't know what you do now with Cerrone.
Yeah, I think he hangs up. It's 5 in a row now. 5 in a row or 4 in a row? No, it's 5 in a row. Well, sorry, if you count this as a loss, I guess it's a draw, but really it was a loss. He's really not going to go up from here, in my opinion. I think it's time for him to give it up. But yeah, as you were saying, Nico Bryce was super happy about that draw. He was ecstatic. It was crazy. Didn't get that, but good for him. Glad he's happy. And he'll go on to get a higher ranked opponent after this, I imagine, because he did win it, and it's quite clear that he did win that fight. But yeah, Donald Cerrone's probably a wise move to call it a day. What do you think?
Well, with Cerrone, I don't think there's any lower you can go than Nico Price in terms of. I don't think he can drop any further down the rankings. Wherever Price is, I'm pretty sure he's fringe 15. You can't go Cerrone outside the top 15. So I don't know what you do with him. Vicente Luque, if he's knocking about, I think that could be a cool fight. I think he could still put really fun fights on, and as we said before, it was going to be fight the night, and it was fight the night. So he was competitive in it, even though he lost. So maybe he just wants to be a prize fighter and pick up paces and things like that. It's not like he's BJ Penn and he's getting absolutely mocked by these guys. He is competitive. Against Pettis, he was competitive anyway. So at this level, he can win. It's just, guys seem to want it a bit more. Like, they seem to come out, and Price put us all into that. And Cerrone was doing some nice technical work, but it just wasn't enough last night. So I think he'll fight at least one more time. I think I heard him post-fight saying next time he's fighting for his career. Vicente Luque is the guy who pops out in my mind. I don't think you can
give you a name?
Price, so that's an issue.
Diego Sanchez.
Yeah, I just do that just for the fans, but I don't think it'd be fun anymore because Sanchez is kind of into his wrestling now. So he could, I'd say about 10 years ago, that fight would have been a barn burner, but now it's like Sanchez is he's gonna make that a boring fight somehow. So I'm sure the UFC matchmakers will come up with something good. I think Cerrone will fight again, and I think they'll just cheap Price as a winner here, and he'll go on and he'll get a nice fight again.
Yeah, let's hope so. The fight before that was probably the biggest fight of the night, the biggest story of the night. Big test for Khamzat Chimaev taking on GM3 Gerald Meerschaert, a guy that people who know the sport know is a talented fighter and he's a good fighter. Definitely a gatekeeper in that division, in my opinion. Like, if you can beat Meerschaert, you belong in the top 15. But if you can't, he's the testing stick, in my opinion, right? And let's be honest, Khamzat passed the best anyone could possibly pass. He threw one leg kick early, then he come over. The first punch of the fight he threw, he knocked him out cold. I cannot believe it. I was saying to some friends before, I was like, this is going to be a big test for him. Let's see how he does this. And I was explaining that he's had 2 fights before this and only been hit twice in both fights, and he didn't get touched in this one. That's 3 fights where he's only been hit 2 times. That's unheard of. What do you think?
It's just amazing. I think he's silenced every doubter really in that one. Like, I think he's probably the brightest, most talented prospect we've seen since John Jones started coming through, and that's as high a praise as I can give him. Really, he just seems destined for titles sooner rather than later now. When this fight was first announced, I thought he was going to walk over Meerschaert. I just thought it was another easy fight. And then as the fight crept closer, I was listening to other people. I was listening to Gerald, who was making a good case for himself and hyping the fight up, doing what he should have done. And I started to sway, and I was just thinking, oh, it could be a good test, this. And I was looking forward to it, but then he just wiped him out. And it was beautiful. He showed his striking. He showed he's not just a wrestler, he's got power. That's at 185 as well, and Gerald's a big guy. So on to Maya next, hopefully. I do like that fight. I think that's the right jump. I think Maya will be able to drag him into it, out for at least a couple of rounds. I think he'll be able to make him work for it and, threaten with submission. So huge night for Chimaev. I'm fully on the hype train. I honestly think he's the best prospect since John Jones was around, and can't wait to watch him again. And apparently it's going to be even sooner than we anticipated, according to White.
Yeah, then they're apparently saying they're not even interested in Maya to be next anyway. That's the fight they're aiming for, but they said if they can get him in there before then, they'll get him in before then. So who knows? Maybe we see him fight 3 times next month, in the next couple of months. It's crazy, and the way he did it, I still don't know how good his striking is, but for one thing, I know he has power, and that's almost more important than being a great technical striker, If you can land that one shot that's going to put someone's lights out, that's all you really need. Partnered with his wrestling, which is obviously dangerous itself. Yeah, it's the whole package. Let's see how he goes at 170. Like you said, this is middleweight. Maybe he carries more power at middleweight. We'll see if they put him in there against a well-rounded 170. I would like to see that. Maybe Wonderboy. Who else we got off the top of my head? Someone who's like not going to get dragged to the ground easy and can give him a test on the feet. I'd like to see. The problem with the Maia fight, in my opinion, is Maia's not the best striker, and we know this, and Maia's not the best wrestler, and we know this. So I think it's just going to end up being stand-up where Kazmat picks him apart. Or if somehow it goes to the ground, maybe Maia can pull something off. But I don't think that's as much of a test. That was the same as this fight. This was a test because we hadn't seen him against a good jiu-jitsu player, and we also hadn't really seen striking at all. But there was never going to be a threat on the feet with Meerschaert. And to give him Maia straight after, there's never going to be a threat on the feet there. So I'd like to see him personally fight someone who's a bit more well-rounded, not so much a specialist, that can really give us a good idea of where his strong points are.
Yeah, well, just when you're saying that, the first person who pops to my mind is Neil Magny. I think he's coming off a few good wins now. Will he want to drop down and face someone like Chimaev? There's no massive reward for it right now other than taking out a prospect. I like the Maia fight just because, all respect to GM3, but he's not Damian Maia. Damian Maia's been a two-time title challenger, I think, at two different weights. He's a legit as it gets. His jiu-jitsu is better than GM3's. He's got more about him. I think he'll take a shot better, in my opinion. I know he got caught by Burns last time, but there's been no issues with his chin throughout his career. So I do think that's the right step at the right time. As you said, it is a bit more predictable because Maia doesn't have the threat on the feet. So someone like Magny, I'd be interested in seeing that too. So there's plenty to do with him. Kevin Holland even called him out after his fight as well, which I'm sure we're about to speak about. So it's exciting times. There's so many guys they can match up with, and if we see him fight twice at Fight Island, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I mean, Maia's chin's definitely been tested and it's held up. I mean, look at the fights with Woodley, when he fought Colby and he got quite battered in that one, and then that war he had with Ben Askren, that big kickboxing match they put on. So he's had these wars and he's been able to be durable and not get knocked out. It was just that one shot from Burns that was perfectly placed. So maybe you're right. It might be a bit of more of a test than GM3 on the feet. Definitely on the ground. I'm not comparing their jiu-jitsu. GM3 is a great jiu-jitsu player, but he's no Damian Maia. You know what? I almost hope that Burns... No, I don't want to say that. If Burns does lose the title, I'd love to see Burns take on Kazmat, because I think Burns is very well-rounded, and that's the kind of fighter I want to see him tested against. If he can best Burns, that's a big, big deal. And if he can't, we'll know where he sits in the division, you know. But yeah, perfect performance from him. Sucks for GM3. Goes back to what he's been doing, taking on the prospects one after another. Poor guy, but you know, it's just what you do. Before that, we had light heavyweights Johnny Walker and Ryan Spann. And I loved John Jones's tweet after this one. He said, "Nice bar fight, guys." Which is exactly what it was. It was a bar fight. The two went out there and they just threw hands until one of them went down. They both went down at one time or another, and Johnny Walker put him away with those elbows.
Yeah, it was a super fun fight while it lasted. It weren't the most technical, but it was like a team Pat Patty versus Czech Congo. It was just all over the place. Johnny Walker, he gets the win, but he's obviously still got so much work to do, and I'm sure he knows that. I hope they don't push him too much after this. I don't want to detract from his win, but he still looks suspect as hell. Like, he was like Bambi on ice out there. Couple of good points though for him is that he got hurt, he managed to recover. He also got mounted and managed to get out of that mount and then come back. And then they kind of both land simultaneous shots and hurt each other. He drops and then Spann shoots him for the thing that, and then he lands them beautiful elbows. I love them elbows. I think they're perfect weapon and they're underutilized against that cage. Like, I think if someone's dipping in on you like that, I think Covington did it to Woodley a few times where he dipped on his legs. Just rattle off some elbows and see what happens. You're stuck against the fence anyway. So yeah, brilliant win for Walker. Glad to see him in the win column. I really hope they don't push him too quick. I really hope they don't give them some like Jiri or anyone like that. I hope that it's a slow build, because I heard a few people saying after, let's give him Prochazka. No, you're gonna get the poor guy killed. It's slow burn. and take your time. He's still young. He's still got plenty of development to do. Let's take our time.
That's why I love MMA Twitter. As soon as Johnny Walker wins a fight, let's give him Jerry Prochaska. That's the fight. When Jerry won, they were like, give him Johnny Walker. That's the fight people want to see, and I can see why, just because both guys are very reckless with their striking, have a unique way of doing it. But like you seem to, what's the word? You kind of hinted at, Jerry Prochaska is a level above Johnny Walker at this point, and I think it would show if the two did fight. Not to say it wouldn't be entertaining, but I think Walker would definitely get bested in that one. But yeah, no, good performance. I don't want to say good performance. It wasn't that great a performance, but good win for him. It was a good win for him to beat a guy like Ryan Spann, who's on a 7 or 8 fight win streak, and he's a young guy in the division coming up. Johnny Walker really came in on fire, and then he had a couple of setbacks. For him to just get another win, it's going to keep his position in the ranking, which is what he really needs. And yeah, he'll go on and take someone else on, hopefully around his standing, so hopefully they don't push him too far. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
In terms of the ranking, I just noted down a few guys, which would be a step up, but they'd also be, reasonable. Anthony Smith's only ranked 8th, which I don't think is a bad fight for Johnny Walker. Smith doesn't necessarily have that one-punch knockout power. It's a step up. You've also got Volkan, who does have that one-punch power, which I don't really like that fight, but they're the steps up where you can take. You're still getting a big name, but it's not necessarily someone like Jerry, who I think is pretty much one of the next title challengers. I don't want to see him there yet. I think Smith's on a downward spiral, so if he can take him on, Volkan needs a win as well. So that would be the type of level I'd like to see. Smith is the perfect fight, in my opinion. It's a big name. I think it's less of a risk than some of these guys.
I don't like either of those fights for him. I think he needs a lot. He has to learn a lot before he takes on either of those guys. They're both. I don't know about both, but I know obviously Smith's a former title challenger, and is Volkan as well? I feel like he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he lost to
That's
DC.
Right. So both guys fought for the title, and they've got well-rounded games. They're both really impressive fighters. I have not seen that from Johnny Walker. We saw some quick knockouts. We haven't seen a well, formulated plan that he's executed over 3 rounds, And I think he'd need something like that going in against Anthony Smith or Volkan Ozdemir. I don't know who to give him some look in the rankings, but I just think a step up to one of those guys is terrible for his career. Maybe even give him someone below him at the moment, just to get in another pad, so he can work on his skills and develop a little bit more before you throw him in there with the better guys in the division. But who knows? Anything else you want to say on that one before we move on?
No, they're just the only guy you can really match him with if you're looking up. Other than that, it's Krylov, who's who's just beat him. So it would be going down the rankings, and I don't mind that. He seems happy with SBG Ireland now. So maybe John Cavanagh can get in someone's ear and just say, slow this kid down. There's still lots of the work to do. Let's drop him down the rankings and just rack off a few wins. I think that would be the smartest thing. Does Johnny Walker want to do that? He's got high ambitions. He wants to be a 2-weight world champion. Would he want to fight Smith or Volkan next rather than drop down the rankings? I think he would. So you need to be careful with him right now, because he might be feeling great after this win, but I hope there's a coach in his ear saying that wasn't great. That was, not lucky, but it was a bit lucky. So to get out of that one, a massive favour in the fight as well. So to see him in that situation is not great. But on to the next one.
Yeah, just before we move on, if he was to go to heavyweight, I got a good fight for him against, what's his name? I'm blanking. The American football player that's a heavyweight, and he's very controversial. What's his name? Oh, I'm blanking. He lost to Alexander Volkov. Greg Hardy. There you go. That's the fight. Walker up to heavyweight, takes on Greg Hardy.
I don't know. I don't even see how Walker's gonna make heavyweight. I know he's 6'6", but he's a skinny guy. I'd be worried about him against them guy. He really needs to hit the weights if he's planning a heavyweight move anytime soon. But I think it's gonna be 3 years or something before he does that. I think he's gonna be in his 30s by the time he moves to heavyweight. So long while off, and I think Hardy will be done by then, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see. Moving on, before that, we had Mackenzie Dern versus Randa Marcos. Mackenzie Dern's someone that needs to be moved up the rankings. I mean, incredible performance. After that slip she had where she threw a kick and ended up on the ground, she made it work. I think she threw up a triangle and then transitioned to the armbar, reversed the position, got on top, and finished it with an armbar. Look, incredible. It's really, really textbook jiu-jitsu, and it's exactly what you want to see in a prospect.
Yeah, it was beautiful stuff from Dern in terms of she even used omoplata to sweep, and she swept herself into mount, and it was just I was honestly like screaming at the telly saying it was because it was amazing. For me though, it's hard not to criticize Marcos with this one. I kind of thought she was a live dog in this, and she had a chance to pull off an upset. Dane falls over, and she's a jiu-jitsu player in the first round, dry, full of energy. What do you do? Oh yeah, I'm gonna jump into her guard. It makes no sense at all. I don't understand what she was thinking. Then once she did that, she was just sitting in her guard, and she's just allowing this triangle to be locked on her, and not just trying to separate the legs and get out of there. So it's just all a recipe for disaster. It reminded me, them guys who put the hands near crocodiles' mouths and then they get their hands snapped off.
Yeah.
What was she doing? I really don't know. It's annoying because Marcos has got so much potential to be competitive in that fight, and she just gave it away, and it was frustrating for me to see anyway. But she's back, Dan's back, legit contender in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's only just creeping into the top 15 now. So I was looking at the people around, and you've got Angela Hill, who's probably wants another big fight after 2 close losses. Tisha Torres. They're a couple of people who I would like to see her matched up with now.
Yeah, I mean, she only has that one loss to Amanda Ribas, and Ribas beat her up on the feet. That's what you're going to have to do. No one who's going to go to the ground with her is going to have a good time, right? We can both agree on that. And that was Marcos' error here. She should have known that Dern would have the grappling advantage. And I think I was listening to the commentary and they were saying Marcos is going to have a wrestling advantage. But wrestling doesn't help you when someone's pulled guard on you, right? Wrestling helps you take someone down, but once they're already down, it's going to become who's better off their back, or who's better off their back or on top. And Dern's just going to beat everyone. I think there's not many people in that division that are better than her on the ground. So she's going to have trouble when she fights people like Ribas who can piece her up on the feet. But otherwise, I see her just smashing everyone. I don't like that Angela Hill fight for Hill. I think that's very, very dangerous. I think Dern will probably get a submission in that one if I had to bet this early. But yeah, I want to see her climb the rankings. I want to see her take on the bigger fighters, bigger names. I like the Angela Hill fight for Dern, so maybe that is something they could do. But who knows?
Hill, despite all the credit she's getting lately, she's still only ranked at 13. So she's lost two close fights, but she has lost 2 close fights. So her ranking is not necessarily what you may think. I think she's ranked 13th at the minute. So that for me is a good fight, and I think it's still a big enough fight for Hill where Mackenzie Dern's a big name, so I think she'll be pretty happy to take it. And then, although she's quite one-dimensional, so if Hill can keep it on the feet, you're expected to piece it up as well. So really fun fight. I love that 115 division. It's so fun. It's absolutely stacked. So there's fights for everyone, and I'm sure she'll be in a big one soon.
Yeah, and so opening the main card, we had Kevin Holland back again against Darren Stewart back again. Both guys fought recently before this one, and pretty entertaining fight, to be honest. I really enjoyed this one, and Kevin Holland won it. I thought it was his fight to win. It was pretty competitive though. I can't really remember any big moments from this one. Maybe you can. Maybe I'm blanking. What did you think?
No, it was just a fun fight. It was, both guys were really vocal. I think this is definitely more of a draw than Cowboy against Price. It was really close because Stewart put her on him in that last round, and then the rounds were pretty close. I think Holland, what got him the victory in the end is he was doing the cleaner work where he's got them really long arms and he was just catching Stewart on the end of his punches, where Stewart's work was a bit more, dogged and dirty and a bit rough, and it was unclear sometimes. But I don't think anyone really loses in this fight. Everyone had a fun fight. Holland keeps that momentum going, but Stewart, he'll get straight back in there and probably get another win. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Holland called out Chimaev, which I don't mind that fight either for Chimaev. I think there seems to be obviously he's very talented. There seems to be a rush to take him straight into the top 5. I don't necessarily like that. I wouldn't mind seeing Holland as the first fight on Fight Island for Chimaev, and then Damian Maia, and then potentially like a Wonderboy or a Leonid or someone like that. But really fun fight. Really fun fight, and both guys did themselves justice, and someone had to lose, and it was a shame someone had to lose, but well done to both men.
Don't do your man dirty like that. Don't bring up Leon Edwards fighting Kazmat. That's not a good matchup for Edwards. Come on. You don't want that one. Kevin Holland, on the other hand, I like that matchup for Chimaev if they want to take him slow. If they want to build him, give him someone like what's it? Kevin Holland, that's what we're talking about. Give him Kevin Holland. He's a talented guy. He's very well-rounded. Like, he's grappling base, got this weird, all unorthodox striking style, can take a punch. I mean, we've seen him fight Thiago Santos. I don't think he got finished. I think he lost a decision in that one. So he's fought heavy hitters in the past, and he's been quite okay in those fights. So, yeah, that might be a good fight for him, but if I'm being realistic, they're not going to do that. They're going to rush him. They're going to give him a high. You know what fight's good for Kazmat now we're on it? Marvin Vettori. Mans needs a fight. Kazmat's looking for a high-ranked opponent. Vittoria's looking for a fighter in general to fight him because no one will fight him. So maybe that's one to do. But yeah, pretty entertaining, open to the main card. We'll jump onto the prelims.
Really good, really good fight. Both men gave it all. Like, it was one of them, because I think I said to you as well, if for some reason Cerrone Price finishes early, this is your fight of the night, and I was pretty confident with that because he just made for a fun style. I thought Stewart might be able to trouble him a bit more with his power. Holland stood up to it, but he was gassed by the end. So hopefully, he's he gets a proper campaign before his next one, before Chimaev anyway. Bloody hell.
Yeah, you definitely need it for that. On the prelims, I'm just going to pick out some highlights I saw because I didn't catch them all. And obviously, I'll pick the big one first, which was, where are we? Randy Costa's knockout of Journey Newsom in 41 seconds by a head kick. And by God, that gave me glimpses of that Kevin Lee knockout, didn't it?
Yeah, it was savage. It was Randy Costa's one to keep an eye on, because not only is that's not some type of fluke knockout. He looked brilliant leading up to it. Mm-hmm. He's only 26. He looks really big for the weight. He's got everything you want to see in a prospect. So he's someone to look out with, and I'm glad he got that big highlight reel KO, because people will be walking out for him now after that. And it was huge. And was that the first fight of the night? It was one of them. So it was just a great way to start the card. It was one of the first fights.
It was our third fight on the card. The first fight was Tyson Nam, who got a stoppage in round 2. Did you see that one?
Oh, yeah. I didn't. I must have missed it. It was the first one I watched, Randy Costa. I must have missed the first two.
Anyone else you want to grab before we wrap it up?
Well, we had the referee controversy.
No, I missed this.
Clark against Alpa. So Clark looked great anyway. She's beating up her opponent, and what happened is basically she's got her against cage, and Alpa decides to sit down, and as she's sitting down, Clark puts a knee on it, and you've got to feel sorry for the referee, really, because she looked like she was sitting down, but technically her bum weren't touching the floor, so she was standing. So the referee jumps in, calls it an illegal shot, and then now they can look at videotape. So he goes and looks at the videotape, realises it's a legal shot, and then a lot of people thought the rules were that he should have stopped the fight at that point because it's about fight ending sequences. Apparently in Nevada, that's not the rule. He can carry on the fight if he wants to. He carries on the fight, and then Clark continues to put a beating on her for, probably a few more minutes than she should have. And it was, it weren't a great watch. And it was Chris Tognoni again who had that bad decision in it. So it was just, I do feel sorry for him now. I think he's done everything by the book. I think if he stepped in for a foul, or what he thinks is a foul, and then the fighter's saying to him, I can fight, and she's had a few minutes to recover, I don't see how you can pull it out of the fight when you thought you got fouled and you weren't stepping in and calling it a TKO anyway. So it's just it was a bit messy, and it's a bit unclear what the rules were. Like, I was asking people on Twitter, what's the rules, and someone told me something, and then someone else showed me the VAR rules, and apparently what he did was right. But nonetheless, people are having a go at him again. So tough night for Chris Tognoni. I do like the guy. I think he's a good referee. It weren't as bad as the Herman one, but it was still just it weren't great. It weren't a great watch, but Clark looked amazing, so I don't want to take away from that.
Yeah, well, I didn't see it, but she got the win, so that's all that really matters. And I'd hate to be a referee. That's one thing I'd never want to be, because those guys can't get away with anything. Whatever they do, they're being criticised. But if there's nothing else, we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll speak to you later in the week to preview the UFC 254. Am I right? 253. UFC 253, Adesanya versus Costa, and what's the other title fight? You got Reyes versus Blachowicz. So that'll be a good one, and we'll speak to you then. Thanks for watching.